How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. In lieu of self-promotion instead, can I ask you to please text the word donate to 33777, and you'll be able to help feed a family for Thanksgiving somewhere in the nation. One of the great things with Hungry for a Day is we've partnered with them. They have our affiliate locations around the country, and they have made quite an effort where we're on the radio to work with local food banks and soup kitchens and food pantries in those areas to make sure that our audience is taken care of. So if you're listening right now on WICC or WTIC in Connecticut, know that Hungry for a Day is partnered with food banks in your area. Same thing if you're on KSTE out in Sacramento, we have partnered with food banks in your area. Same in Anchorage, Alaska, same down in the Palm Beach, Florida area, Jacksonville, Orlando, all across Mississippi, Lafayette, Louisiana, Texas, wherever we're on the radio, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Kansas City, Springfield, Missouri. We are working with Hungry for a Day and through them, your local food pantries and soup kitchens and food banks to make sure that people in our listeners' area are able to give. And so you know when you donate, when you text the word donate to 33777 and you donate, your money's going to your local food bank. It's going to your soup kitchen. It's not going to some random place around the country. We're helping our listeners in their areas with Hungry for a Day, and it's an all-volunteer effort on their part. They do a remarkable job. Now, before I dive into all this other stuff, Nolan from Buffalo, New York has been waiting for a while, and I want to sorry. Nolan from Buffalo, New York, I was actually, Nolan, talking to a guy, played golf with a guy on Saturday who, an accountant up in Buffalo, and now I'm on the radio up there. So suddenly I guess I'm going to have to come up there, but not during the wintertime.
Yes, please come up here. It's, it's 2 inches of snow on the ground right now, and it's snowing currently.
Good Lord.
So, yeah.
And then you'll get that lake effect snow off Lake Erie, and you just you get this wall of snow that comes in. I don't know how y'all live.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, I'm originally from Florida. My wife and I moved up here. Yeah.
So you wanted to be okay. Did you marry and move, or did you just decide I want to go see what 15 feet of snow looks like?
Yeah. So my wife and I are both students, and she is in med school up here. And so that's kind of how we ventured up here.
Wow.
But yeah, we were absolutely blown away when we woke up one morning and there's literally 5 feet of snow on the ground outside of our house. And so
I can't even imagine that. So now I got to ask, and I realize you called for none of this, and I've kept you on hold for this long, and here I am grilling you on Buffalo because I'm fascinated by the weather up there. But also, are you a Bills fan?
I am now. I am now. You cannot live in this city without being a Bills fan. They live and breathe, and around Election Day, everyone has signs out that say Josh Allen for president. It's not even a question. You have to root for the Bills. So
I hear he's a genuinely good guy. So I like Josh Allen a lot. So okay, now to your point, I've gotten all of my Buffalo questions out of the way. We can get to your point. Sorry.
Yep. Oh yeah, my point was the SNAP benefits ran out, and my church, we fast every Sunday, and then the money we use for those 2 meals that we've given up, we give to a fund that provides groceries for those in need. And since the SNAP benefit ran out, we actually had 200 families come to our church to get groceries on Saturday. And it was a really spiritually uplifting moment. Normally we have about 8 families that come, and they're in our congregation. So we had around 200 families that showed up. And then on Sunday, my wife looked at me and said, man, the chapel is completely full. What is going on? And I said, well, the SNAP benefits ran out, and these people are here to receive food. And I just thought, let's keep this government shutdown going, because it's causing our church to step up. It's in igniting like members to donate and to help, and these people who normally would go to no-face government and get their food are now coming and listening to messages that are uplifting and receiving that food. And I just thought this is how it's supposed to be.
So, you can say that, and I can kind of chuckle with you saying I wish the shutdown would go on. But, one of my biggest grievances with our current structure in government is how so many people, they don't have a local community relationship for care. They just depend on money from the government, and they don't have that tie into the community. And you're so right. The government has replaced the role of churches when it comes to helping the local community. You don't have to go to church. You don't hear the gospel. You're not given that hopeful message. You're just given a check by the government. And I do think that has done something to our communities around the nation that has deeply impacted the spiritual health of the nation in a negative way. When you wait for Uncle Sam to send you a check, and you're otherwise not really plugged into your community. And churches as well don't have to be as plugged into their community. They can send their kids off to the beach in Mexico to build some homeless shelters there, as opposed to being missionaries in their own backyard.
Yeah, exactly. And like now we know more people who are in need. My wife and I, we're both going to be kind of an upper income family. And now we're in a congregation with all these people who are very low income and who are in need help. And now they're networking with us. And, and what can come from that is just so much better than what can come from government assistance. I think church assistance is America's pastime, and it's no longer. So,
yeah. Listen. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it was really uplifting, and I am just amazed at the generosity of people and the charity of people, and I think that America needs that. Like, we need to serve each other, and this is just a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, it really is. Well, first, thanks for being up there and listening, for doing that and calling in to talk about it. I appreciate it. And God bless you and your wife up there for med school in the snow. But, to the point, though, to Nolan's point, I honestly think we've lost something as a society here. Now, just hear me out on this. I'm a conservative. I'm not a libertarian. I'm okay with a social safety net provided by the government so that the very poorest Americans do not have to live as beggars on the street. We have enough of that already. But we lost something in our society when churches no longer had to serve communities the way that they once served communities, because people could rely on the government. And a lot of churches, particularly the evangelical churches in the nation, they send missionaries abroad. They send their kids on foreign trips, and they're not missionaries in their own backyard. And the churches that have stepped up tend to be more progressive theological churches. They take Amos, the book of Amos, my favorite book of the Old Testament, to heart with the social gospel that take care of the widows, the poor, the orphans, and the refugees. And so the progressives, in evangelical churches, you're far less likely to hear a sermon on Amos than any other book in the Old Testament, according to a Barna survey a number of years ago, because the left has co-opted the book of Amos, which sounds very much like a social gospel, and it's not really a social gospel. It's how we're supposed to take care of each other. And we don't do that in society anymore. Nolan is calling from Buffalo, New York, and he's talking about his church has a food bank. And with SNAP benefits out, they've seen a number of people come to church. And the problem with progressive theological churches doing the food banks and the soup kitchen stuff is you're not hearing the actual gospel message. So you're not actually feeding people's soul with the progressive church any more than the government is. And churches having opted out of being a service to their local community charitably, they take care of their congregants. Now, theologically, the church is a hospital for the spiritually wounded, and churches take care of their own congregations. My church, every time we have communion, takes up a donation that goes into our fund to help members of our congregation. We don't have a food bank or a soup kitchen. There is a more theologically progressive church in town that does. We have very generous members in our congregation, and I love the outreach that we do in our own community. There are a lot of churches, though, that I know that don't really do a lot of outreach in their own community. The poor have food stamps and SNAP benefits, EBT cards. They don't need the church. But they do. In fact, I really do believe, and it's one of my weirdly esoteric views, that as evangelical churches have ceded the role of providing social welfare in their communities to the government and to theologically progressive churches, we have seen the spiritual crisis in this country metastasize. People's souls aren't actually being fed through theological liberalism. Their souls are definitely not being fed through Uncle Sam's man boob. There's no way for people to deal with the soul ailing problems that they have. And the evangelical churches have kind of stepped back from it. And they've stepped back from it for a lot of legitimate reasons, I should say, in defense of them. But also, the government stepped in to fill the void. And by allowing the government to expand the social safety net so broadly, we have given people an easy way out of having their soul fed. By allowing the government to so broadly take care of the needs of the poor in this country, the churches haven't had to. And people haven't needed to go to church for help. And so here comes Nolan calling from Buffalo, where normally they have 8 families who show up at their church. Their church is one that has a food pantry, is known for helping the poor, and they'll typically have 8 families, some of whom are members of the church, and they had 200 instead this past Sunday. Think about that for your church, the generosity of your church. And the message that your church has is not the gospel message, the message that people need. Should you not wish to try to attract people? And you can say, well, Erickson, that they're not really coming for the message, they're coming for the food. Never underestimate the power of the Holy Spirit, folks. I just think that we've ceded too much of the American life to government. And the data in this country, the objective data shows that Christians in America are still the most generous people. They give the most to charity, and they do so because they're compelled to tithe. Progressives in this country tend to be the least generous, and I'm not meaning that to be rude to you. That's just what the data says, that by and large progressives look on, well, our tax dollars go to the government, and the government takes care of these people, but the government does nothing great. Everything the government does is somehow compromised, cost overruns, inefficiencies. The private sector, the nonprofit world tends to do much better. Think about Hungry for a Day that we're partnering with. 100% of your donation goes to feeding the hungry. And Hungry for a Day, 100% of their operating costs, they're volunteers. In fact, they have an opportunity. If you text donate to 33777, you got an opportunity to help their overhead costs as well. Otherwise, it's all volunteer. But they do it effectively, efficiently. They work with local soup kitchens, food banks, food pantries. The government doesn't do that. They filled a role in society where the church and the synagogue, the temple, the local religious community used to fill that role. And now they don't fill that role, and I don't think it's a coincidence now we have such a massive spiritual problem in the country. I laugh sometimes about the absurdity of trade regulations and things like that. The Commerce Department has slapped a massive fine on some Italian pasta makers. And it's actually about to become almost impossible to find Italian pasta made in Italy in the United States. Exporters are being charged anti-dumping duties totaling 107% on pasta brands. So there will be some that are still sold here that have gotten around the anti-dumping rules, but 12 major companies out of Italy have been fined essentially a 92% anti-dumping duty because the Commerce Department decided their pasta was too cheap. So that's right. You could get Italian pasta in the United States too cheaply. So the Commerce Department is taxing the pasta. Now, it was an investigation that began during the Biden administration. It is not per se a Trump administration issue. But do you know why the pasta makers were able to sell pasta in the United States as cheaply as they were? Any idea? It's because they were buying wheat from North Dakota for cheap. That's right. European weather has not been good for the hard wheat that Italians like for their pasta. And because there was a decrease in the production of durum wheat in European nations, one, because of the war in Ukraine, two, because of weather, the Italians sourced their wheat for their pasta from North Dakota. And they could get it so cheaply from North Dakota that they were able to lower the prices of pasta being imported into the United States. And now the United States has decided to fine the Italians for their pasta being too cheap, but it was cheap because they were buying cheap, really high-quality flour from North Dakota. So now the North Dakota farmers are going to be hurt by the Commerce Department trying to hurt the Italian pasta makers. We live in an interconnected world. Will you forget that at your peril, ladies and gentlemen? Now, let me tell you about Hillsdale College. They have some great classes on capitalism that maybe the Commerce Department and others need to take. If you go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, you can see it for yourself. E-R-I-C-K, forhillsdale.com. You go there. I'm pulling up the website myself, and you can see the recommended courses, Understanding Capitalism, a basic economics course. You can even watch a trailer to see if you're interested. 7 lessons, 30-minute each. Those lessons takes about 4 hours to do, completely free. You learn about the capitalist system. The Federalist Papers, you can take classes on that. An introduction to Aristotle's Ethics, How to Lead a Good Life. You can take lessons on that. You got 10 lessons on that one. And again, they're 30-minute video lectures. Do it at your own pace. Get through with them. You get a certificate of completion. You never pay a penny at Hillsdale College. Eric, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. You improve your understanding of a topic you're deeply interested in. You get smarter. You impress your friends and family with your knowledge. And it's education, not indoctrination. It's all available at ericforhillsdale.com. Go check it out today. Hello there. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, 877-973-7425. Let's hop out to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and take John's phone call. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Hey, I am doing well. First of all, let me shut down my FedEx vehicle I'm driving so we can talk easier.
Ladies and gentlemen in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I'm sorry your packages will be delayed.
Not long. I'm not going to talk long. Hey, first of all, I want to thank you for having some perspectives on your radio show that, I don't hear everywhere. Grateful for that. Number two, I'm really grateful that you are willing to talk about your Christianity openly on national radio. That's really cool.
Thank you.
So I go to a local church here. I just want to give you an example of a church that's doing something great, and it's great in a big way, and apologize if I get a little choked up. During COVID, our church was handing out food to people. We were doing rooftop services when the city wouldn't allow us to meet openly. And our church, through the giving of the people, we partnered with the federal government and fed 17 million meals to the people in Tulsa.
Wow.
17 million meals. Now, they go on to do great stuff all the time. Like during our service this weekend, we had boxes of food all over the lobbies for people to take home. And this Victory Christian Center with Pastor Paul Daugherty, they operate what they call dream centers. These are places where they have sports available for the kids. They do ministry, free swimming lessons. They give away food every week out there. They do big, huge events to help people with backpacks going back to school. And during Christmas, they're doing thousands and thousands of families that they're supplying toys for and Christmas dinner. And for Thanksgiving coming up, we'll have a huge gymnasium full of people that we're going to feed. And it's the right thing to do this, and it just chokes me up how good the people of this church are to our folks. Now, I got to say this, Mr. Erickson, these folks largely don't come to our church.
Right.
It's a place 15, 20 miles away from our church, and they're too poor to come. Most of them, some of them got their own churches, but that doesn't matter. It's people in need, and the Christian thing to do is help supply that.
Amen. That's well said. Okay, so John, first, I have to correct you. My name is Eric. Mr. Erickson is my father, and he's home listening right now. So don't ever do that again if you call in. But
well, I honor him by saying that.
Well, yeah, and listen, I appreciate it, and I actually, you mentioned I got the church's Instagram account pulled up right now and seeing just the amazing stuff, and that's what it's all about. And I know there are people out there, Erickson, religion, whatever. Just helping people in your local community, whether it's a church or just you and your local community. People have gotten so dependent on a nameless, faceless government in Washington, D.C. They don't know their neighbors. John, listen, thank you very much for listening. I'll let you get back to delivering packages. By the way, John, I know you're still listening, and let me just say this. No offense to UPS. The FedEx guy, I got a great man. So Valerie, our UPS lady, is tremendous, and I love her. The UPS people, other than Valerie, the FedEx guy is he's like our family friend. I'm a big FedEx fan, and Valerie at UPS, head and shoulders above everybody, but the FedEx guy is just wonderful people. I gotta say, and again, I'm trying not to make it theological here for the people who may. There he goes again. Just the basic point. We have lost something as a nation when we have outsourced our charity to our tax system. I'm on a group chat, and one of the guys in the group chat is he's a very committed evangelical theologian, and he's very upset about homosexuality. He really is, and that it's a problem. He's very disappointed the Supreme Court didn't revisit gay marriage. He thinks sexual deviancy in this country, as he would put it, is a massive blight on this country. And I understand it. I understand the theological worldview. I understand as well it's not going to change. And my perspective is, if you want to make a meaningful impact in your community, it's not to get rid of gay marriage. That's not going to happen. It is to help your local community. I think that when Christians get worked up about particular sins that other people have and how they're ruining the country, I don't mean this judgmentally towards any person of faith, because I'm guilty of it myself, but how committed to your local community are you? How plugged into your local community are you? How often do you contribute to your local community, to your Boys and Girls Clubs, your United Way, to your local Salvation Army? How often are you contributing to your local food bank? My father-in-law manages a soup kitchen in his community. And they're always struggling to find people. You know who some of the most reliable helpers are? The prison trustees, the prisoners who are allowed out to help during the day. My father-in-law and his local soup kitchen get a lot of help from some of the prisoners who want to help and who can get out of the cutting grass and other stuff. And they go help at the soup kitchen. And there have been college kids who have showed up, and the college kids, they're there for a day. They got to cook, they got to clean, and they find it more labor intensive than they were expected, and they don't show back up. And I hear this sort of story around the country, not just from my father-in-law's soup kitchen, but from a lot of nonprofits around the country that help the homeless, that provide meals. The college kids will show up one time, and that's it. It's one and done. I got a check mark. I proved that I could do some sort of charitable work in the community. And these places are always struggling for people. Or I'll tell you another good example of this is your local board of elections. How many people who run local elections are retirees because guys like you and me don't take a day off from work to get trained, let alone take a day off work for an election. We're relying on the retirees, and a lot of people who are now transitioning into being retirees have never decided to volunteer or do something. And local boards of elections around the country are all struggling to find the volunteers they need to help run elections. But the food banks, the soup kitchens, the things like that, the conservatives seeded that charity. And I actually think it's a bad thing for all of us that we have allowed both the theologically progressive churches and the federal government to fill the void, because in filling that void, we're maybe filling people's stomachs, but not their souls. And we have detached ourselves from our local communities and the needs of our local community, where, who you are your brother's keeper. The homeless man that you see on your way to work every day is someone who is in need, and how much easier it is for us to ignore that homeless person than it is to try to help them. And oftentimes, by the way, I'll be real honest with you, it's not worth helping. They have a addiction, a dependency, and your help is best given not to him directly, to the homeless person, but to the local rehabilitation center, the local homeless shelter that's going to take care of that person and hopefully take care of them. I sometimes feel, y'all, just confessionally, I sometimes feel really guilty when I drive past a homeless man with a sign begging. And because, there is, for those of you who are Christians, there's a thing in the Bible that there you may have come into contact with an angel and you haven't, and you didn't know it was an angel, and you helped them. And I'm just like, is this really a homeless person? Is this really an angel? I have a pastor friend of mine who takes that verse to heart so much so that he never not helps a homeless person. If he is driving down the street, the people, they're in the median, they're holding up the sign, they're begging for money, he gives them all. He keeps wads of $10 bills to give them $10 bills. His rationale is that's really not enough for them to be able to go buy liquor, but it is enough for them to be able to go buy a burger from McDonald's. It's his rationale. You and I can disagree. And I always feel so guilty because I see the people on the side of the road and I'm thinking, there are so many places that are willing to help you. Why are you begging? And I've seen too many profiles on the media, in the media, where you see the guy begging on the side of the road and you follow him to his Mercedes and he drives off, and it's just a cheap way for him to make money on the generosity of others. And my typical rule is I will fund the homeless shelter and the food bank and the soup kitchen and help raise money for those, and I just don't give directly to the person begging on the side of the road. And I'm if God calls me to account on the final day, I was like, hey, I didn't know it was an angel. And he'll say, well, I told you in the Bible you weren't going to know it was an angel. It's like, yeah, but I helped the local soup kitchen, and I'm going to be good with that. I am. Because there are a lot of people who are addicts and others who make terrible decisions, who basically through addiction or other poor life decisions, and they've found it easy to live off the generosity of others. But there are a lot of food banks and soup kitchens and food pantries that are struggling out there right now this holiday season, and I would rather focus on them. Back during the Depression, Franklin Roosevelt used a phrase, the deserving poor. We don't like to use that phrase anymore. As Americans, it offends us. I have gotten hate mail. When I filled in for Rush one time, I talked about people who had failed at life. They'd made terrible decisions and they blamed other people. They'd concocted conspiracies because they couldn't acknowledge they made bad decisions and they failed at life. And I got denounced in the New York Times by a supposedly evangelical writer for daring to say that someone had failed at life. But it is true. People make bad life decisions and blame other people and want to bail out. They never learn their lessons. Like, no, buddy, you failed at life. Failing's not permanent, though. You can turn your life around. And I would rather give to the local soup kitchen than give to the person who's on the side of the road with a piece of cardboard saying, we'll work for food, when really they don't want to work. They just want your cash. If that's an angel, I'm sorry, God, but I've given money to local food pantry to take care of that person when they actually show up. I'm rambling now. Let me go back to the phone. John, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show.
Yes, good afternoon, Eric.
Hi
I'm
there.
calling to say thanks for bringing awareness to the poor. The last number of years, due to medical issues, I have type 2 diabetes. I had surgery, and that was the end of me, I should say. And the last couple of months, I've been able to sustain myself through the people that you are recommending to be generous to others. I'd like to say thanks for the generosity of other people that can help people in need like me. I am too proud, have been too proud all my life to be at the game of my life that I am now. So I'd like to say thanks and thank God for the wonderful people out there.
John, listen, thank you very much for calling and saying that. Thank you. And I got to tell you, I know the pride. I do. I joke with my wife that she would rather curl up and die than ask anybody for help. She really would. She does not like to ask people for help. I remember one time she was in the hospital for something, and I was willing to take food from our Sunday school class, and she was so mad at me. She's like, "Who's going to eat it?" It's like, "I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat it." No, I realize the kids aren't going to eat it, but I'm taking care of the kids, and you're in the hospital, and me, I'm totally going to do it. But I mean, we struggled for a while and just didn't want to ask for help. And I know it's a pride thing. I tell you, I've lived that life, but it also, there are people out there who are willing to help. If you're willing to help, if you text donate to 33777, we've hit 190 people so far. If you text donate to 33777, I'll send you back the link. But 190 people have thus far donated. We're getting close to 200. Daniel, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hey, Eric, how you doing? Yeah, my name's Dan. How you taking care of the kids, and you're in the hospital, and me, I'm totally just.
Daniel, you sound like you're a million miles away all of a sudden.
Oh, there we go. I just turned you off of the speaker. How you doing, Eric?
Good.
Excellent. I was calling in on a previous bit that you had about an hour ago versus the 30 and 50-year mortgage, and just wanted to point out, I guess, some differing opinions. I'm calling in from Florida. I'm a retired military and then also been in real estate for about 10 years here. And I've seen everything from the COVID drop to the resurrection of Florida real estate. And, I see an opportunity here to sort of use some of the Democratic, jargon as far as affordability issues. And if there is the ability to have, some good legislation, I think it could go into, battling that, and then also financial literacy on, the person who's taking out the loan. There needs to be a lot more education on that. So if I, as an investor, were looking to find the most inexpensive money to borrow that's going to be a primary residence, and transferring that to my, generational wealth for, going forward, I would love if my parents had a, almost paid off home where there was a mortgage associated with $20, $25 that I inherited in 2055, at that point, all this inflation has really denounced the amount of inflation that you pay on that loan, and it could continue to allow people to, afford that next step home going forward. And I just thought I'd bring that up from more of a boots on the ground type perspective.
Well, look, Daniel, I appreciate that. My problem with it, though, is let's just look at, the actual amortization schedule on a $500,000 mortgage. Axios has this up right now. On a $500,000 mortgage, after 30 years, with a 30-year loan, you're paid off. Do you know, and again, with current interest rates, you've bought a $500,000 home. On a 30-year mortgage, after 30 years, it's paid off. With a 50-year mortgage, you're still going to owe $386,872 after 30 years. And your payment is only going to be $300 less per year than had you taken the 30-year mortgage. So it's going to sound good to some people that I'm paying $300 less a month. But after 30 years, you still got $386,000 to go on your mortgage, and we're going to create intergenerational debt, not intergenerational wealth. We have crossed the 200 donation mark already with Hungry for a Day. We're going to keep it going this week, see how many folks we can help this year. So please text donate to 33777 and get the link for Hungry for a Day. Now, let me tell you about Swiss America. They've been warning people about a secret war on cash out there with the government trying to steer you. I actually had this happen. Of all places, in Las Vegas, I went to a place, won't tell you the name, was not allowed to use cash. In Las Vegas, was not allowed to use cash. The government's trying to restrict you from using cash and other assets and force you to use your credit and debit cards. Swiss America wants to get you their report, The Secret War on Cash, completely free. All you do is call or text my name, Eric, to 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency, and it's spreading. So get the report, The Secret War on Cash, completely free. Just text my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. You can call them as well and just say, Eric Erickson sent me, or go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric. That's SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. Message and data rates may apply. Let Swiss America help you.